What's up everyone, it's me with ADHD, and today I want to talk to you guys about the truth of ADHD. So buckle in. Throughout my life and throughout the last year on this YouTube channel, I have heard so many myths and rumors and opinions about ADHD that it's no wonder so many people have misconceptions about it. So I thought I'd make this video to go over these myths and misconceptions and really just debunk them and show you why they aren't true. Oh, and as always, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all my new content. Anyway, so the first myth that I want to talk about is the myth that ADHD isn't a real thing. May as well start with the silliest of all the myths, right? Now, I've heard this one before, and personally I think it's very silly, but it's very upsetting for me because the main people I hear it from are from the younger ADHDers that watch my videos. Usually it's them telling me that they need some kind of help or advice because their parents are telling them that it's not a real disorder and they're telling them that they're just lazy. And that's really upsetting to me because it couldn't be further from the truth. Things like the National Institute of Health, the American Psychiatric Association, and a ton of other institutions all recognize ADHD as a genuine medical health condition. It's actually been shown to be a hereditary condition, so to the parents out there that are doing this to their children, please don't, because you might even be ADHD yourself, so just don't. Okay, so that brings me to my next one, which is ADHDers are just lazy and should try harder. Lazy? Try harder? Are you kidding me? If only you people knew what goes on inside an ADHDer's brain. Okay then, so let's take me for instance here. I obviously have ADHD. I also work a full-time job Monday to Friday. I also freelance on the weekends, and I run my YouTube channel too. And then on top of that, oh yeah, I get up at 6 AM every morning and I work out as well. Lazy people just don't do that. ADHD has nothing to do with being lazy or not trying hard enough. If anything, people with ADHD have to try harder than people who don't. What really grinds me about this one is asking somebody with ADHD to try harder to focus is basically the same as asking somebody who can't hear very well to just hear better. It doesn't work like that. ADHDers have an impairment in their brain that works differently to a regular brain. It doesn't release the same amount of dopamine that allows you to be able to focus so easily. So for them, it's much more of a struggle to focus. So the reality of that is they're working much harder than you are to try and focus. So maybe you should cut them a little bit of a break. All right, moving on. So here's another one for you. Kids eventually just grow out of ADHD. See, I can't even get that one out without laughing. As an adult with ADHD, I can tell you that this is profoundly false. What you can see is when people get older, it does appear like their symptoms maybe have either gone away or they're just not as bad as they used to be when they're younger. But I have news for you here. It's not because they're gone away, it's not because they're magically not ADHD anymore. It's just that they've learned how to cope with their symptoms a lot better. A whopping 80% of children with ADHD show symptoms into adulthood, and 75% of that show even worse symptoms when they're an adult. A lot of that can be due to the fact that they maybe weren't diagnosed when they were a child and they haven't learned how to cope with these things. This is why it's so important for people with ADHD to get diagnosed early so that they can start treatment and handling symptoms early on. People with undiagnosed ADHD are more susceptible to other disorders like anxiety or drug abuse. Which actually brings me on to my next misconception, which is ADHD medication is bad for you and leads to drug abuse. This is probably the one that carries the most clout, I think. Now let's set aside those idiots and uneducated people that go around saying that ADHD medication is just meth or speed. Let's just put those guys in the corner over there, you know, where they should be. Just go sit in the corner. Shoot, shoot. The truth is, ADHDers have very addictive personalities, and that is something that I have a lot of experience with. Everything that I do, I have to go in and do it as hard as possible, and that can be a bit of a problem. But here's what's actually happening there. As we know, ADHD brains don't produce the amount of dopamine that a non-ADHD brain does. This leads us to be constantly chasing after whatever gives us the highest amount of dopamine hit to our brain. When we do find that thing, that's when we go super hard. So like a lighter version of this would be when you're doing a task at work or something and you're having a lot of trouble focusing on that task. So then your brain then decides to go to something else that is giving the hit of dopamine. And then not only that, your brain is gonna hyper focus in on that thing so that it can get as much dopamine as possible, which is why we are so incredibly easily distracted by things. And a more extreme version of that might be like alcohol. If you have a couple of drinks, then that's gonna give you that hit of dopamine that's really gonna make you feel better, and then you're gonna go as hard as possible because you're not used to getting that high amount of dopamine to your brain. So you're just gonna keep chasing it until it's too much. Now, how it pertains to ADHD medication is like this, and this is important, so pay attention to this bit. When we first start our ADHD medication, we have a lower dosage and then we increase it to the point where it's right for us. The problem is, a lot of people don't have a good amount of sleep, they don't have a regular diet, and it makes it feel like their medication still isn't working because they're not looking after their body. It's really important to get these things right so the medication works properly. And what happens then is they feel like that isn't the right dosage. Because of this, they then increase their medication to a higher and higher dosage until it's at a point where it's too much for them. Now that stuff combined with the fact that people who don't have ADHD regularly abuse ADHD medication makes it have a bad name. And that really is quite disappointing for people who actually need it. So if you don't have ADHD and you're just using the ADHD medication, it's a bad idea. All right, so here's my last ADHD myth. And it's a bit of a twofer. It's bad parenting is what causes ADHD, and that schools give preferential treatment to people with ADHD. Well, like I said in the beginning, ADHD is a genuine medical condition that's actually hereditary, so it would be pretty much impossible for it to come from bad parenting. So that's definitely false. Really, I think this comes from either people who are just ignorant and have never actually dealt with mental health issues before, or it comes from people who believe that a little bit of extra discipline on their children is going to beat it out of them, and that's pretty wrong. And the fact that people say that ADHDers get preferential treatment in school is also very much false. Because of the impairment, it's actually much harder for them to study and do exams than it is for your child. So the assistance they're getting is just leveling out the playing field for them and making it fair for them actually. So it's false that they're getting a leg up on your child just because they're getting help. Anyway, that's all I got for today. These are my myths and misconceptions of ADHD. If you guys know any others that you've had to deal with throughout your life that really grind you as well, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to talk about it with you guys and hear about it. If you're an ADHD and you're struggling with all these problems, sound off in the comments. There's tons of us here to talk it through with you guys and help you out. Like the video if you did. Don't forget to subscribe, stay up to date with all my new content, click the bell icon, and I'll see you guys in the next one.